Okay, it's officially Verizon time at 6 o'clock to open the regular Board of Trustee meeting, May 23rd, 2023. Can we have a roll call?
Ms. Orich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
And Mr. Weckbach, is there a need for executive session, and under what code?
Yes, I would recommend that the board move to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G8 to consider confidential information related to specific business strategy and to discuss negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance, and in accordance with G3 to discuss pending or imminent litigation with the township attorney.
I motion that we go into executive sessions for the reasons detailed by Administrator Weckbach.
I second.
No questions?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, 6:01, we'll be back at 7. Verizon says it's 7 o'clock, time to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Do we have a roll call?
Ms. Orich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Anything to report from executive session?
Nothing to report.
Okay, then let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for our moment of meditation, we lost one of our Colerain Historical Society member. Her name was Sandra Shea, and I'd like to take this time just to have a nice little moment of silence if you have any fond memories, and thank her for her participation in the CHS. All right, thank you. Okay, we have the approval of minutes.
Thank you, Board. I have two sets of minutes that I would ask for the Board's approval on. The first is the special meeting that was held May 9th, 2023.
I motion that we approve the minutes of the special meeting from May 9th, 2023.
A second.
No discussion?
No discussion?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Secondly, I have the minutes of the regular meeting that was held on May 9th, 2023.
I motion we approve the minutes of the regular meeting from May 9th, 2023.
A second.
Discussion?
None?
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
All right, board. Next, we have some presentations on the agenda tonight, and we're going to kick things off with one of my favorites, and I see several of you actually in the audience again. This is the graduation of Class 3 of the Colerain Township Citizens Academy. So those of you that participated this year, if you all wanted to stand up for a second, and then I believe Kathy's got a certificate for each one of you all. I know I really enjoyed getting to know all of you through the class during our session. I hope that you all found it informative, probably more fun than the CFA or CPA, right? Like, that's everybody's favorite. So, but yeah, we had, I think, 13 people that were part of the class, and so not all of them could be here, but if you wanted to maybe hand out the certificates to those that are in attendance.
Does anybody have a fond memory that they want to share about their time? I see some lip. Okay, Dale Beck. You want me to do them down here? That's fine. Yeah. Okay. So let me do it down here. I don't need a microphone.
Well, Dana might beg to differ, but that's okay.
Okay, he liked the financing, to learn how all we use our financing for, correct? Very informative. Very informative, okay. Carl Hauser. Any fun memory?
They all were fun.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Kim Mertz. Do you want to speak about anything? Oh, good.
They were all very informative.
So you would encourage some more people to come out? Okay, thank you. Kathy Nevis.
Kofi, I don't see him here tonight.
sorry.
Yep.
Don't have my glasses. Gail Nolte.
Just keep graduating from programs, Gail.
know. And anything, that,
The Jeopardy game was a lot of fun.
okay.
If you haven't put the trustees through it, I think.
It's
Oh, no, they didn't. Don't do that to me.
it's pronounced Jeff Purdy. So yes.
Okay, good to know. You're teaching us something. Thank you. Okay, Charles Swigert. Can you top that one?
No, I don't think so. But could I also get Ross Swigert?
There you go. And that was Ross Swigert, too.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. There's two for Ross Swigert. Well, he took that for me. Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to report?
I liked Jeopardy.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, his head's going like this now, you know that. Look at him smiling.
Yeah, I won't be
Okay.
able to fit out of the room, right?
Oh, right. Okay, Ellen Westfall. You're on the spot now. What did you like?
They were all good.
Okay, all
It
good?
was fun.
Okay, thank you for
Thank you.
participating. Okay, we got Thomas Westfall. Are you thinking what you're going to say?
I had fun because I was with my wife during it.
Boy, oh wow. Is there an anniversary nearby there? Wow. Okay, it says can't be here, Monica Grasser and Matt Teets. Okay. Well, thank you all for participating. And I'm sure you're going to display those on your wall with, you know, metal good frames. Thank you.
Yeah, if maybe if you all want to come up real quick, we do a group photo with the trustees and Helen can take it. And as you learned in her session, she'll put it throughout all of her media channels, so make you all semi-Colerain famous, right?
Okay.
And our fine fiscal officer as well.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, I do.
In the front again? In the front?
All right, Gail, we need to see you.
Yeah, again, thank you all for participating. I know I always have a blast with the classes. It's always fun, and it's always good to meet some of our residents and learn a little bit about each and every one of you. You all are welcome to stay. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, but that is 100% up to you all at this point. And with that, our next presentation is actually going to be done by Dana from Waycross. So Dana, I don't know if you're planning on presenting from behind the mirror or behind the curtain.
These nifty little flyers.
I'm gonna press the shot, and I'm gonna walk it.
Okay.
Do you guys think I should turn this on or something? There's only one word you guys have all heard me say before, right? Yeah, thank you. Somebody heard it, but that's it. One person in this room knows what word. I'm not here to talk about mics today, believe it or not. I am on the agenda to talk about the fact that Waycross has a summer film workshop for teens going into grades 7 through 12. And for those of you who wondered who that magical voice was behind the curtain back there, it's me. If you're watching on TV, it's me. And the first thing I want to do is thank the trustees, because you have supported Waycross in a lot of different ways, including putting us on the agenda tonight, but just even having us here at all. And because of that, you know of Waycross as a government access station, which is a big part of what we do and all of what we do that you see here in Colerain. But we also have an educational access aspect, and that's where this film workshop falls in. This is notes to keep me on target, because goodness knows I can talk for a really long time. So I'm going to tell you briefly what this workshop is. I have DVDs that show this is a real thing. Every single year, students going into grades 7 through 12 have the chance to come and do 8 sessions at Waycross, where they have to write their own movie. We don't give them a script. We don't give them any ideas. They have to come up with it themselves. They have to then cast it amongst themselves. Then they have to shoot it themselves. We don't let them go off-site, so they have to be really creative about their locations. And every single part of our property, both inside and out, becomes the most amazing parts of a movie. And actually, these are the last 3 years here. They're very different kinds of movies, and they were all shot at the same location. I was going to have you watch little clips of movies tonight, and I thought, no, you can see the whole things. They create films that run about 11 to 15 minutes long. And if you go to waycross.tv, which is probably where you're watching this now, if you're not in this room, there is a section called Summer Workshop. So waycross.tv/summer workshop will take you right to a page where you can sign up for the workshop and find the details, but you can also watch the ones the kids have made for eons and eons back. They're little thumbnails, and you can click and you can enjoy yourself watching your way. They come up with some really interesting ideas, and I just want to reiterate, they were not our idea. When you watch some of them, you'll think, really? This is what they had? No, it was their idea. I promise it was all their idea. The kids do it for 8 sessions. It's the first 2 weeks in June, the first 2 full weeks in June, Monday through Thursday, 1 to 5 p.m. Then we take all their footage and we edit it, and they have a movie premiere night for their family and friends in July. And that's a big deal because they haven't seen the finished product. You ever see interviews with actors and they say, gosh, when I saw it at the premiere, it was so surprising because that's not what I saw when I was acting. They get to experience that as kids, and it's really fun to watch them do that. I have watched kids grow over the last few years, coming back every year, but discovering new things that they didn't know they were good at. And that's especially fun for me because my own kid did this way, way millions of years ago. Won't tell you how old I am. And later that sparked something that she wound up going into. She wound up going into the field of video production. Actually, right now she's volunteering on a Waycross shoot, covering Colerain High School's graduation. So sometimes they stick around. Not all of them, but sometimes they stick around. Sometimes they think they're grown up and they're done with you, and we get them back again. These movies that the kids make win awards almost every year. I just got these last Thursday. These are hot off the press. These are blue chip awards that the local, regional community access awards, and these are awards that this last one they did, No Way Out. It's a prison escape movie. I promise it was their idea. And they won for both student programming, which they kind of win every year, but they also won for narrative storytelling, which was really fun because they made that up. There were no English teachers making them do it. They made up that narrative, and they won that too. So I'm really proud of them. So I was happy to show those off. There is a fee for this camp, which allows me to say one more cool thing about partnering with the community. We, for the first time this year, decided to invite individuals and organizations to partner with us and sponsor kids who might not be able to attend. It takes up a lot of our staff time and equipment, so we have to have a fee for it. But we wanted it to be accessible to the most number of kids. So one of the organizations that came alongside us was the Colerain Chamber of Commerce. And they said, we'll sponsor 3 students. We have 3 students for those particular sponsorships from the Northwest Local School District. And I'm really excited to have them join us. They're kids that have never been able to join us before, so I'm really excited about that. I do still have one unentailed scholarship left. So if you're watching this and thinking, I do know someone who would love to do that, but there's no way they can afford to do it, please, dana@waycross.org is how you can email me. Please ask me, because there's a chance that that's available, and I don't want any sponsorships to go unused. I definitely want them to get used. And
What are the ages? I see a couple different pictures of.
yeah, you can see, and if you are here hearing this in person, there are some copies of that flyer. Wait for it. There are some copies of this flyer out there where you got the agendas, and you can pick one up and bring it home with you, and the trustees all have one already. And you'll see the kids in the flyer really range in ages, because it's going into 7th grade to going into 12th grade.
Okay.
And those going into 7th graders aren't very big sometimes. so that's a big range. The one other thing I want to mention is there is another way. If this camp doesn't exactly match what you think, you have a student that wants to get involved. If you have a college student home for the summer, you have a high school student, and you really feel like you need to give them something, there's something that's free that also lets them get their hands on these cameras, and that is volunteering to run cameras at our shoots. We have more concerts to broadcast than any other summer that I ever remember as a volunteer or staff. We are covering them right here in Colerain, including the 4th of July Spectacular on July 3rd, which is my favorite. We are also covering several. Forest Park added more concerts, including their usual big Jazz in the Park. Green Hills has more concerts than they have ever had, and they have them every Wednesday all summer long. And we use volunteers to run those cameras, and those directors are used to working with volunteers. So it's okay if someone doesn't have camera experience, because you've got a director in your headset saying, hey, camera 2, this is what I need you to do, and you're not the only camera. But you're on a live TV shoot. It's not a club shoot. It's not I'm doing this just for fun. Maybe it'll go on my channel, and my mom will say I did a good job, because your mom will say you did a good job. And I'm sure you did, not doubting that. But you're really getting input on your camera work directly from someone who's experienced as a director. A lot of times volunteers do it because, I'm talking about students, but also we have our biggest base of volunteers are retirees. And I, as a parent, used to volunteer with my teen, because we could both sign up and run cameras. I thought, I'm driving her there. I might as well too. Look what it got me. I'm still here. But a lot of times the students will do it for community service hours. If you know your student needs community service hours, I highly recommend something that will help them earn a lot of them over the summer before their course load starts again. Because once the fall starts, it's harder to earn your community service hours. So I know I was talking about film workshop, and there are still openings in the film workshop. It's starting up pretty soon, so if you're interested, definitely go look at that. But beyond the film workshop, if you go to waycross.tv, there's a volunteer tabs, and it lists all those concerts. If you are in the room here, I've listed a whole bunch of them. I've put the Colerain ones in bold, because those are the most important here, right? Right. Jump and Jive Show. Have you guys ever seen them?
No.
That is a part. Yeah, they're a party to listen to, and so I love running camera. I usually try to sign up to run camera for those, even if I'm not assigned it as staff. So I'm sure there's more things on my notes. Family projects, college students. I think I told you all about stuff.
And the fee is actually quite nominal for camps when parents are looking for.
Yeah, if you are also, that's the other thing. If you're a parent with teenagers thinking it's too late for camps, because a lot of them are full by now,
Right.
We are not full. There is still room, and it is $200 for the 8 sessions and the premiere night. And like I said, if there's one sponsorship left, so that if you do know someone, I know I've also talked about Side by Side, I've let them know about it too. So if you have any other questions, thank you so much for inviting me to talk about this. And
Dana, I think I'll step up. It
Yeah.
sounds like the community needs it, and I'll do the Aerosmith show. So I'll run camera for
You're
that.
gonna run that. That's fantastic. You know what? Okay, so we're looking at this list of, well, of course these are local bands. These are all the ones you can go see free this summer. But I'll tell you something. Some of the kids that I've mentioned, some of the kids that I remember as high school kids running cameras for us as volunteers, they're now. We had one that showed up years ago and told Tony, I'm going to run camera for the Bengals someday. And he's like, yeah, go ahead and get out there for that Woods football game. And you know what he does now? He runs camera for the Bengals now. A lot of the students, I could take up a very lot amount of time talking about the students who started getting hands-on experience just volunteering on our shoots and who are now in charge of stations, who worked on broadcast teams at 2 Olympics.
Oh, nice.
Okay, that one was my daughter. I'm allowed to say that, right? Who all of this started with volunteering on Waycross shoots. So as far as looking for some summer things that older kids can do, teenagers, there's a lot of camps out there to keep the little kids busy, which you need. But if you are looking for something to keep teenagers busy, there's the film workshop, but also these concerts all summer long. Yes, it does help us, but I'm telling people about it because I watched how much fun it was for my teen growing up and how it gave her some hands-on experience in a field she got to try out before she decided she wanted to go to college for it. So yeah, love talking about that. Awesome. Any other questions?
I would just, that person's name was Adam Schrand, and he is a Waycross alumni. And in fact, when I was watching the Bengals game January 8th, I saw Tony on the screen, and I asked Tony about that, and he goes, that's because Adam Schrand's running a camera, because Tony sits down there in 156. in the
Adam
seat. So I
Schrand-
thought that was pretty funny. And yes, the Waycross has done marvelous things. It's a great place for a young person to go during the summer, and it's a very good use of your time, and just the exposure to the technology that you have out at your studio might not necessarily lead a kid into a career that involved cameras. It might lead them anywhere, just to have somebody show an interest in the technical aspects of all the modern equipment that you have there. I think any of our community members that ever wanted to tour the Waycross studios, please call Dana at 825-2429. If you have cable TV or internet here in Colerain Township, the franchise fee, which was connected to your cable bill, is how we fund Waycross. That's not from general tax dollars, that's from the franchise fee. So it's just been and to have these meetings televised and our school board meetings televised and all the other communities that are on the Waycross channel, that's a lot of information you're never going to get on local news. And it's
true.
it's
That
just
is
really good to
entirely
know
our
what's
mission.
going on in local government. And as I've told you over the years, I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate the service that Waycross provides.
We just did our last spot to run during these Blue Chip Awards, and the focus is local voices, that you will never hear the kind of detailed coverage of what's happening at these meetings on a network station downtown. You will never see the entire game of your local school games, and you will never get to hear such detailed information about what's happening locally.
And we do get a lot of viewers.
And yeah, absolutely. And I find that Colerain is very interested in what's happening locally. So, and that is a really good point. Our funding, we are not for profit. Our funding comes from those franchise fees
that are on your
through
cable bill.
And it's not something that if folks are watching and going, is that why my tax dollars go to this camp? No, actually they don't. They're just, and it's also why we have to have some fees for the camp to make sure that we're still able to offer it, because we don't have a huge budget. But also, I love that we cover as much as we do with what we have.
You do a really great job, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
So, and I appreciate
I enjoy
all of
you.
your support. I really do. All right. Well, I'm neglecting my my booth back there. So, if you have more questions and you're still here at the end of the meeting, feel free to ask me, or you can email me at dana@waycross.org, and I will get those emails and be able to get back to you.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Dana.
All right, next on the agenda board, we have an item that was requested at our work session, which was to have continued conversations from the public specific around the police long-term forecast and potential levy. And so this is intended to be an opportunity for residents to provide specific citizen feedback on that item.
I do have, this is for, the citizens address, but Bruce, do you want to come up and speak? Yep. I've got notes on the back, but it doesn't pertain to you.
Good evening.
Good evening, trustees and attendees and so forth. As a follow on the last meeting, I do support increased funding for the police department, as we did with the fire department, but I strongly disagree with having this as a standalone levy against all other spending within the township. The police and fire need to be prioritized in the budget against all other priorities. So if that means decreasing something else to increasing something we need, police, fire, and roads, then we need to do that. And philosophically, I really, really disagree with having special levies, and just wanted to get it out there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if there was no one else that was wanting to speak on this
No, I
topic,
have
then
nothing,
we
no.
would go to
No,
regular
I got
citizens.
the basket, and that was the only one, right?
So if there are no other citizen address, then we could move into administrative reports.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I believe Tiffany has an administrative report.
Hello, trustees
Hello.
Good evening.
and fiscal officer. The only thing I have to report is our community survey is now public. It's on our website. If you go on our main page and go to the bottom to the news, you'll see a link to our community survey. We are seeking, we are taking this opportunity to seek feedback from our community and input for our 3-year strategic plan. So check it out, colerain.org, and go down to the news. That's it.
All right, thank
So
you.
I have a question. Mr. Weckback knows this is coming. You don't, so.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I'd like to pursue, and I don't know if this is something I need to address in your report or Ms. May's report, but either one. I'd like to pursue, along the lines with what we heard from citizen comment, I'd like to pursue alternative revenue streams. One of the things that's a big line item in our budget every year are the parks, to the tune of about $1 million a year that we spend on the parks. I think there's an opportunity or some opportunities there, and I'd like to start looking at the options of sponsoring those parks. So it would be the XYZ Colerain Park, and there's funds given so that eventually the parks could be spun off from the budget and kind of be their own with a park board and things like that. So I don't even know how to go about it, but I'm interested in looking at the sponsorship and ultimately creating a Friends of the Parks. So I did a little back of the envelope math, and I think that probably my small contribution to the parks through my taxes is probably $20 a year. If you ask me, do you support the parks, would you write a check? I would guarantee you the check would be more than $20. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for a long-range plan to take that $1 million that we spend annually on the parks and take it and spin it into a separate category so that we can have like the township budget itself more expressly devoted to police, fire, road, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think to answer that, your timing is spot on. Historically, we've done strategic plans that are 1-year in nature. They're not long-term in nature. And so sometimes these bigger ticket items that take a decent amount of staff time to get set up and get running kind of fall off the list, right? And so what we're planning on doing this year, and we've kicked off some of these conversations, and we have the survey out there like Tiffany introduced, is to start getting some of those feedback so we can develop a multi-year strategic plan. And I would imagine that as we get closer to that during budget season, we'll be able to dedicate potentially some initiatives around what it would look like and how it would take to get something like that up and running.
Are there parks in the area regionally that do that? I mean, I know Miami Township tried it with a sign. It was an utter and abysmal failure that ended up with multiple lawsuits. Don't do that.
Yeah.
In my experience, I know it's very difficult to get sponsorship naming right programs off the ground when it's related to parks. And specifically, I can speak with the very popular park in Hamilton County is Summit Park. So you have millions of people visiting, and we couldn't even sell a naming right to that. So, you know,
Good thought, but
that's well, but it's not impossible.
right.
And I always operate on the function of if you can't try it, you'll never know. So it's definitely worth trying, and I would really recommend our staff to pursue that route, because there might be a family out there that really loves Heritage Park that wants to name it after.
And part of it is if you can get a foundation set up, maybe it's less about naming rights and sponsorship and more about people donating. You know, right now we may have residents that wish to donate to our parks when they pass, but because we don't have a dedicated funding mechanism for that, they may not feel like their dollars are going to go toward that. So they may be reluctant to put things in there, or they may be reluctant just to donate because they're not sure, you know, it's going into this big pot of money. What does that relate to? Park foundations have had some success. You know, I know from folks at like Cincinnati Zoo and different places like that, they always speak about the fact that anytime you're trying to get something new, you can generate a lot of money that way. The hard part is sometimes getting people to generate and donate money for ongoing expenses, but that doesn't mean that we can't explore that and go down that pathway.
So that's something you're going to hear from me on a continual basis now that I've it takes a while to kind of get used to everything that goes on. But I think that, developing alternate revenue streams and developing other ways to pay for non-essential items is crucial in the future of a township. And that anything that we can do to minimize the cost to taxpayers, because it's just, right now, it's not sustainable on a long term. It's sustainable short term, but on a long term basis, it's not. And I'm dedicated to, I want to address that somehow. And it seems like the parks are a little bit of low hanging fruit. So if you get any information, shoot it to me. And I'm going to be bugging park boards from other locations too, because, yeah, and I know I have heard that before, that if you want to establish a new park, well, yeah, you can get a bunch of people to sponsor it, but hey, you want to sponsor what's already there? Well, for me, it's more that we're sponsoring kind of a lifestyle, a decision that Colerain Township is going to plan way into the future instead of short term. And that's how I see it. But I appreciate any help that you guys could give on that. And maybe you're right, maybe it won't work, but we'll, you know, it's
Or it just might take time.
yeah.
You know, if you can raise enough revenue to structure an endowment that can spurn off money, that's always an option.
As
too.
Confucius said in the Analects, the journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with one step.
Unless you're riding a bike.
Right, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiff.
Thanks, Tiffany.
For my administrative report, just wanted to first say congratulations to all the graduates. I know it's graduation season at all levels, and so excited to see what some of this new class is going to do as they make their transitions into adulthood and come back to our community and do some incredible things. Earlier this week, so yesterday, Hamilton County had a unveiling of their new Department of Small Business Assistance. So Alloy, which used to be known as Hamilton County Hamilton HCDC, so Hamilton County Development Company, has rebranded to Alloy, and they've now started a new arm which is dedicated towards small business assistance and improvement. So if you operate a small business in our community, maybe have questions on how to develop a business plan or what resources might be out there in terms of loans or grants or different things like that, this new standalone wing is available to assist you. Beyond that, the county also announced that they are awarding additional grants to small businesses, up to $10,000 in grants to help with their expenses. They're basically asking for anyone who has a business in Hamilton County that's a small business that has had some impact on revenue due to COVID. So if you look at your revenues in 2019 versus what they are today, and you're able to show that they're lower, that you'd be eligible to get up to $10,000 from the county without any major strings attached. So thought that was worth sharing with everyone, and that is all I have for administrative reports.
Do you want to speak about Monday?
Yes, Monday. So we have a tentative trustee meeting scheduled for Monday. There are properties that are eligible to be on the nuisance list at this point. There are about 8 properties there. So that is scheduled for 9 a.m. And then at 10 a.m., we have the Memorial Day ceremony, and that is at the Corner Gateway. That's our Veterans Memorial. It's usually about a 30-minute ceremony, usually some rousing speeches, so you all are on point on that. Honestly, it's just a great way to recognize and remember those who have paid dearly for our country in order to give us the freedoms that we have today. So encourage everybody to try to attend that if they can.
The speeches are one thing, but hearing the taps and the 21-gun salute, I mean, it just does, it just melts your heart and brings tears to your eyes. Okay, no more miss.
That's it for me.
Okay, so now we go to the trustee report, and I'm going to go first because I just got a note from somebody in the audience that they have named the 2 eagles out at Heritage Parks. They're twins, and they're named Shad and Crosby. And Shad was named for Larry Shad, which was a longtime member of the Colerain Historical Society. And the other one is Crosby because he kept reminding us or everybody at the Historical Society that the Heritage Park and where the eagles are in Crosby Township. But I saw the nest. I think it was in Colerain. I'm going to put Colerain on him on that one. But as he said about the Memorial Day, please come out. It's just the service is a beautiful service to start your day off, to make what Memorial Day is all about. The other thing, something new, first and exciting pickleball tournament. It's called the Intergalactic Pickleball Championship of the Universe. It is on August 12th and is at Grossbeck Methodist. And please visit www.colerain.org/forum center to apply, to put your application in for your foursome, or if you want to play alone. I think we have got some competition with costumes and some Township people that really think they're going to win.
Yeah, so the tournament has a slightly ridiculous name, and the intent is to have fun with it because pickleball is a fun sport for anyone to be able to play. And so we're encouraging folks to come dressed appropriately, but in ridiculous outfits if they can. So we're going to have a lot of fun.
And you're going to be one of the players, correct?
I am planning on playing with a partner, and we will see how we do.
Okay, so there's a challenge in the offices here. So, and I wanted to go on, when talking with Bruce, when I got elected, I had no intentions of ever wanting to raise anybody's taxes. But when I got here a year and a half ago, we were at such a low volume of police officers. We actually had 47. And we had an officer working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. We had our chiefs going out on patrol. Our officers were doing anything they could to keep this township safe. And we as a board have said our top priority for Colerain is our police. And with what we've done to keep our police, we've got them up to 67. We've got more experienced police. We're trying to maintain them. We still are not the top of the pay ladder. We were training all these police officers, and they were going everywhere else. So I'm hoping we have some nicer pays that we're going to keep our police and have attract more. With that being said, I don't want to see the tax levy go, but there's such a need, and I think we'll discuss later what we'd have to cut so the public would be aware of, if we can't pass a levy, what our cuts would be, need to be. Go ahead. I'm done.
Thank you, Kathy. Last Tuesday, and as I've always said at our meetings, we don't get a chance to talk outside of the meetings. I did meet with Commissioner Driehaus down on East Miami River Road at the site of the proposed expansion of the gun range. And for those that don't know where it is, it's just about a half a mile from the intersection of Blue Rock. It's tucked away pretty well. There's a lot of parkland around it, so there's not neighbors immediately next door, and I'm looking forward to the development of that facility. I did find out from our chief that our next scheduled range time availability to keep our people trained and certified is not until November. They are that backed up. with the scheduling down there, and I was able to talk to the range master about that. And with part of the new plan, there would be a lot more shooting lanes, and they would be able to run a lot more of the local police departments through there. Another point that was made is we had an incident here in the township, I want to say it was late last year, that compelled assistance from a lot of neighboring police departments. And in fact, while it wasn't at the gun range, there was a training going on that day, and we were able to pull officers, including two that happened to be here from out of state for particular training. So my point is, any given day, we're going to have a lot more police presence in the township just by virtue of hosting this facility. And I'm looking forward to its construction, and I'm glad the commissioner apparently has taken time to meet with each of us separately, so, which is what we have to do. I do get a lot of phone calls, and some people think it's funny that I give out my number, 404-3057. And in fact, Saturday I went out and rode around, and it's just that time of year when there's a lot of tall grass, and some folks aren't able to cut their grass anymore, and some folks sadly are landlords that will be addressed beginning next month with our rental registration program. But I sent a nice list of them to Mr. Weckbach, and he made sure that those were processed. And that's part of why we're having a short meeting next Monday, because the three of us are all available, and it gives us a chance to keep these things rolling, if not for that late May meeting, which is, May seems to be when the grass grows the most. Those citations would be put off for 3 weeks from tonight, and that's just too long for those neighbors to deal with that. But anyway, through the course of some of the relationships I developed, in fact, one citizen actually came upon somebody that was in the act of dumping on the side of one of our roads, and I'm all about it's been forwarded to our PD, and they're going to go out and get this person. I was pretty excited that citizen actually took the time to turn around and gather enough information so we would know who that is, and please don't dump on the side of our roads. Pay the fees and go to Rumpke or find one of the other construction landfills around town to get rid of your materials. But we did get somebody red-handed, which I just really like that. This Thursday, our Citizens Police Academy has Bunko Night, and I'm sure that somebody will point that out later in the meeting. But my wife's a Bunko player. I am not, and
You roll dice. It's not hard.
Kathy, you probably know a lot more about it than I do.
2 Bunko clubs.
But, so you'll probably be there.
Dan, Bunko was this past Saturday.
Saturday
May
night.
20th.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
Saturday.
Yep,
Today's the 23rd.
we're on the 23rd.
Okay, no wonder that's why
okay.
I wasn't there.
Okay.
I've got it.
I was a little confused too.
I know.
so.
I had a wedding that night, otherwise I would have gone.
Okay, I was out riding around writing up grass stuff because I sent you that list Saturday. Okay, well, and that's about all I had for my report. And thanks to everybody who watches our meetings and attends them and calls any of us with any complaints, because if you don't call us or call the township, then we don't know, we can't be everywhere. So please continue to let us know what's going on.
Thank you. Dan.
Thank you. To my colleagues, thank you. Congrats to the Township Academy. This was, I think, my very first idea when I ran for trustees. I'm like, you know what? We do police and we do fire. Let's do let's do government academy. And people kind of looked at me like, really? People aren't going to want to do government academy. And I'm so happy that we've had the third graduating class, because we know, anyone that knows anything about history knows, the more education we get, the more knowledge we get, the better our government runs. And I'm thankful for everyone that's contributed by attending, and for those that have contributed by putting together the classes. Thank you so much. Also, note out to all the locals that are graduating. It's kind of a theme tonight, graduation. We had Dana here from Waycross talking about vehicles for people, for our citizens to address their dreams and live a better life and live their ultimate life. And I think education is such a big part of that. I've devoted my entire life to it, and I believe in it wholeheartedly. And I'm so happy for that as well. A couple of other things. In front of the Ohio House now, or they're talking about, is an increase, or the Ohio Senate, I'm sorry, is an increase in the local government fund. They're proposing 1.7%. Now, back in the 2010s, it was much higher. They're talking about increasing it to 2.5%. So call your House. It's in the House. It's in the House bill. The Senate is holding hearings on it. That would add to Colerain Township about another $275,000 a year for funding. And this is funding that we once received as part of the local government fund. It's not really asking for any additional. It's returning some of that stuff that was out there in the 2010s.
Would that be Cindy Abrams they would call?
Yeah, Cindy Abrams or Bill for Ohio House, or Bill Blessing for Senate. I have had a back and forth with our new auditor, and I'm going to be meeting with Mr. Weckback and the auditor and some of the issues with properties and how they're classified. If you know, I think it may have been Mr. Unger that made the point last time. Is look, if we're coming back for taxes, we got to get the people that owe the stuff at the beginning. I think that's the fair kind of moral way of doing things, and I'm going to push everything I can to do that. With the range, just a reminder, and I haven't forwarded that information yet, one of the things that Commissioner Driehaus and I talked about is frequently asked questions that people have about the range. For instance, it may be one of the ones I jotted down is, what about the cemetery at the range? Because there is one at that location. And the other thing, and I agree with Mr. Unger, it's great to have those police in the area, but also, and the one thing that I've been pretty forceful about is that I feel Colerain needs to be put in it shouldn't be a break-even deal for us. We should benefit from it. Mr. Weckback and I met with the county administrator and with Ms. Driehaus and with Vice Mayor Lemon Kearney and offered a possible way to bring for them to continue with the shooting range plan and give Colerain Township funds too. And I don't know, have they gotten back to you on that? And the range is out there. People think it's going to happen tomorrow, or it might happen in 9 years. We don't know. I mean, it involves the city and the county agreeing, and I've seen that once, but I was a young lad. So I mean, it's not something that's right around the corner, but it's something that we clearly, and I didn't know that the other two had met with the commissioner. We clearly, all three independently, are making sure that we have our fingers on the pulse of that. And just for Memorial Day, everybody please attend if you can. It's an excellent opportunity. As you know, this kind of stuff really is kind of what motivates me. This past weekend, I had an opportunity to go down to Fentress County, Tennessee, and I did so specifically because Memorial Day. My grandfather's from Fentress County, Tennessee. He grew up in a company town that was a coal mine. When the coal miners went on strike, they took off everybody's doors. The company town did, so that it would be cold and they didn't have coal to burn and stuff like that. And ultimately, at the age of 16 or 17 years old, he was homeless during the Great Depression, came up to the city of Cincinnati, where ultimately, he found work, met my grandmother, married, and went off to war. But it's just such an important part of who I am, a legacy of who I am, that I went to Fentress County, and also to show you what a bigger nerd I am than you would ever guess. I visited the Alvin C. York, a historical site in Pall Mall, Tennessee, because he's evidently a distant relative, and it was tremendous. And I will point out the thing that I found, and this is really bad. I went to the Fentress County commissioners, and in Tennessee, they don't have 3 county commissioners, they have 12. So I spent my vacation, I shouldn't admit this, I spent my vacation going to the county commissioners in Fentress County, Tennessee to see how they did things.
Paving roads and cutting grass.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, I need to check on reality. But that's important to me to recognize that for Memorial Day, and to recognize Grandpa Charlie Young, who was lost to me when I was, I think, 7 years old, but still leaves an indelible mark on me. And for that, that is my report.
One thing I wanted to mention is I did take a title class, and there is a way that the law firm, once we get a demolition order, since it happened twice this year, there is a way that the title company told us how we can put it on the title, so when they do the title search with Hamilton County, or like the other residence where they transferred the title, that if it came up, it would be on a title search. Okay? So I found that loophole.
Kathy, I'd like to make one other comment in response to what Matt just said about, do we experience 100% collection in taxes that are levied? I've advocated that if people would pay what they owe, then, you know, our levy ask would be a little bit less and all that. And very specifically, Matt, since we don't talk outside of meetings, that one on Ben Hill, the guy with the sidewalk over there that had about 20 feet of blown up sidewalk, when I looked up the owner and then I ran that owner's name through the auditor's site, that owner has 11 rental properties in Hamilton County, and that owner is claiming owner occupancy on 4 of those 11 properties. It's impossible to live at 4 of them, and I did send that down to the auditor's office. I guess you've got I think there's a lady down there named Cheryl Gabbard who was handling that.
Okay, I don't know her, but I spoke to Ms. Auditor Kelly and her assistant, and I'm going to be meeting with them next week. I'll bring that property up specifically.
Yeah, and I think you have the information on that too. Yeah, just claim owner occupancy once. I own one piece of property. It's my house. I get the owner occupancy credit at it. This guy, in fact, I think this guy lives in Westchester, and he's claiming owner occupancy at his residence also, so he's all over the place. He lives in 5 different houses. And what's the credit on it? The one on Ben Hill is about $84 a year. Well, that's $84 that he should be kicking into the pool of money that we fund all these services with, and he's not paying it. And if people would pay what they owe, then we wouldn't have to ask for the things we have to ask for. And going back to my bunco comment, I actually had a note there on May 20th, but I had something else on June 19th, and it's something I just saw. And this will be a great thing for me to learn about up at Triple Creek on, I guess it's up on Pippin Road.
Yes.
They have an event on June 19th, which we can talk about at our June meeting. But I guess they're opening a dialysis clinic there, and they've asked the trustees to show up.
Yep.
And
They want to do a ribbon cutting, and they'd like for you all to be there.
great, and I guess what they're looking for is a little bit of publicity about it, so there you go. So thank you.
Hopefully, it's not something everybody wants to go to is dialysis.
Good to know. It's good to know those
Well, it's
resources.
great. Well,
are
when you
here.
have somebody on dialysis, it's nice to have something more local. There's one in Ross, I can tell you where they are. You know, when you have somebody
Yeah, so
that you
we'll
have
have
to take them.
apparently it'll be a
it's
brand new
nice.
facility.
It's
so-
nice for our Colerain residents that need the procedure.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to new business.
Yes, and tonight, Lieutenant Middendorf is going to present the items from the police department.
So you pulled the short match today, haven't you?
Thanks for coming, sir.
Good evening.
3 things on the agenda for you tonight. First of which is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at the following addresses: 2973 Aries Court, 9024 Colerain Avenue, 11525 Colerain Avenue, 9101 Coogan Drive, 3123 Elkhorn Drive, 2579 Grant Avenue, 9730 Sacramento Street, and 9739 Sacramento Street. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we adopt the resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at those properties.
I'll second that.
Any discussions?
None?
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Ms. Stronger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Next up is a resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 10141 Menominee Drive. 2 vehicles at this address, a 2014 blue Mazda 6 and a 2008 white Honda Accord. Recommend adoption of this resolution.
I'll motion to adopt the resolution declaring 2 junk motor vehicles at 10141 Menominee Drive.
Second. Any discussions?
No discussion from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Ms. Stronger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you. And finally, a motion to authorize the Township Administrator to enter into an agreement with the Northwest Local School District. The current contract with the Northwest Local School District is set to end June 2023. The new agreement will allow the Police Department and Northwest Local School District to continue their partnership in providing safety to the district. This agreement will continue to provide a school safety sergeant, a school investigator, 2 school resource officers, and 3 school safety officers to the district. It will also add 2 additional school resource officers and 2 additional school safety officers to the district, bringing the total number of employees covered under the agreement to 11. Recommend adoption of this motion.
I motion that we approve the school resource officer agreement.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Yes, in this agreement, the way this is set up, the school district is paying the full cost of these officers with benefits, and those numbers are detailed in the agreement. If I can slide down here to it.
Yes, that is correct, and that is on Addendum 1, which in your agenda packet is page 18.
Which shows that a police sergeant serving as district safety and security coordinator, the school district's paying that full cost with benefits of $122,647, and so on and so forth with the other officers. So this is the school district hiring our police department to help provide important security in the schools. So they're paying for 6 of our officers. Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay,
And
great.
it's all Northwest schools, not just Colerain Township schools, correct?
Correct. So,
Yes.
yep.
Yes, ma'am.
And we do send those officers to the Northwest schools, and you might not know this, in Green.
That's what they just
So
said.
White Oak, but that's, we can have a Colerain officer over there at Montfort Heights and at White Oak Middle.
Yes.
Okay. Great. No other comments
Ms.
from me.
Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
That concludes that. Thank you, board.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you so much.
All right, board, next in the agenda are administrative items. The first item is a resolution approving the update of the Hamilton County Solid Waste District Management Plan. So we have 90 days from when I received this notice for us to either adopt or deny this plan. I received that notice in early May, and so put this on the next available agenda. This plan does not necessarily contemplate any direct changes to our tipping fees in any way, shape, or form. I would recommend adoption of the resolution, and I would also recommend that since Mr. Wallert serves on the Solid Waste Committee, that he might be able to provide some additional details or answer any specific questions that there might be. But I would just recommend a motion to approve the resolution.
You want a motion?
I'll let you, for some reason.
My
it's not-
screen's down. You want to make a motion? I'll second.
I don't know if it's appropriate if I motion since
Okay.
I was
I
part
was
of
gonna
the.
say, Mike.
I motion that we approve the new,
It would be a motion approving the resolution.
approving the update of the Hamilton County Solid Waste District Management Plan.
Okay, I'll second.
For that.
Discussion?
It's, so this has been the bane of my existence for the last 6 to 8 months. So every so often, so the state is divided into waste districts, which sometimes are a county, oftentimes are multiple counties. Obviously, with Hamilton County, it's Hamilton County Solid Waste District, and they have to provide to the Ohio EPA on a regular basis a plan on how they're going to manage the solid waste that comes into our community. Probably 98% of which ends up at right down the road at the Rumpke landfill. That landfill has approximately, depending on who you speak to, anywhere between 18 and 25 years left. But the goal of Hamilton County resource is to reduce the amount of items that are put in that landfill. And I spoke about this in a number of meetings, how I attempted to raise the out-of-district in-state tipping fees, to use that money as a give back to the individual communities and members of the 38 members of the Hamilton County Resource Waste District. That was, I lost that vote. I'm still fighting for that. In the plan, the one thing that is different is they want a study outlining and doing a site location on having a large regional organics yard and food waste processing facility. As it is now, yard waste can be taken up to Rumpke here, and there are, I think, 4 other areas that you can find on Hamilton County Resource that you can take yard waste to be processed. The study is one that should be sort of interesting here when the county does it, because There seems to be a vision of having a big organics processing with a lot of trucks going in and out, which would definitely reduce the impact on the landfill. But where do you cite that? And I think that'll be the $1 million question. I don't know if communities want that cited in their backyard. Right now, Lincoln Heights has one, but it's just for Lincoln Heights residents. I know in the past that St. Bernard had one. It's probably been a dozen years, and really it closed because of neighbors didn't like the smell that came from it. So, but that's down the road, and one that I feel shouldn't be in. One of the position I'll take on this is it shouldn't be a government answer. It should be a private answer for this. If organics can be sustainable, then that's fine. Private companies will figure out a way to do it. If it's not sustainable, I don't want to put a loser in government's hands and lose more taxpayer money. So that's just beginning on that. So I don't know. I gave you a huge overview. If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask.
Well, when we discussed this, you talked about there's some very ambivalent wording that you were concerned with.
Yeah,
about
so
recycling.
my concerns are just that there's not a lot of specifics in the plan. So there are talks in different sections about changes to the recycling incentive and different things like that. And, not knowing what that's going to mean over the next 5 years. Is it just going to be a study and then it gets shelved to the years after that when we do the next plan update? I take some comfort in the fact that we do have a trustee that is on the solid waste plan or the solid waste management committee. So I feel like we will be able to have an avenue to make sure that our voice is heard, to make sure that changes that might affect Colerain can be articulated properly to the entire group.
And one of the big changes that I should have brought up that is a significant get for us is the fact that funding will be available through local firehouses for battery, the batteries that catch fire, all the lithium batteries, for them to be disposed of properly at firehouses, which isn't going to cost a lot of money and is going to save probably half the fires that you see at these places. And the change to the recycling is not going to be a change to, I call it a recycling bounty, or the money we get for the recycling. There's going to be, and hopefully this came out of some of the stuff that I pushed, is that some of these communities weren't getting any money for recycling, so they couldn't develop recycling programs. And it's going to set a minimum benchmark for them on what they get for that. The goal is to reduce landfill, and there's all kinds of arguments on how to do so. And we'll see what comes from this study on yard and food waste.
We do have our recycling bins, and they are free. So please, if you don't have one, call Rumpke and get a recycling bin.
And we get paid. We get paid for the items that we put in that recycle bin.
That's another way for us to generate a little bit more money, is please recycle.
And it pays for the people that we use as litter gatherers right now. That money, the irony is that money pays for the litter gatherers. So if you're thinking, I don't know about recycling, I don't know what it's going to do, or maybe it costs more to recycle than to put it in the landfill, Colerain gets paid. And that's the important thing to me. That's what turned me into a recycler very quickly. When I realized we get money for it, I said, all right.
When they gave it me a big toter free.
I'll put it in the tote and sit it out there every Thursday.
So Matt, your comments about starting a separate program for collecting food waste, that already happens to an extent, and there are market-based solutions. There's a company that's been around for over 100 years in northern Kentucky called Griffith Industries, and that's part of the Darling Company, and they've gone around for years and collected, unused food products at the industrial level, like back when there used to be a lot more beef processing in town and other products, and that's how they so that market-based solution's already in place. A lot of other large food processors already have routes to go with their unused products. I know a lot of the spent grains from Miller Brewery up in Trenton go across the street, and those are processed into cattle feed. I know there's already a lot of market-based solutions without setting up another enterprise that would send a separate fleet of trucks around to collect all those items. I think the study will show that, and since we don't get a chance to talk, these are my comments that you might take back to the Solid Waste Committee. I think the study will show that it will be very expensive to set up a whole nother system of collecting different food waste, and the fact is, a lot of it that might be spoilage or out of date is still in packaging, and to separate that from the packaging is still gonna end up, you know, at a landfill disposal site, whether it's Rumpke or Bavarian or anybody else. But I just think that component of the program is going to show that if they have that study, I think that if they consider all those factors, they'll see that it, as you said, it'll just be adding a money-losing effort to the county government, so.
And a lot of the things you mentioned are commercial and specific commercial elements for that food waste. Griffith Industries, who I've known Bob Griffith for probably almost 30 years now. I taught 3 of his kids, so I know him pretty well. Made a fortune off the grease trap stuff.
Right.
You put, at the end of the night, you dump in. I think he sold Griffith Industries about 10 or 12 years ago for about $600 million.
Right, that is correct, and I think that's called Darling now.
Yeah, and if you look at on I-75 by Erlanger exit, the Griffith Elite Training is his son, one of his sons who I taught, Jordan Griffith, who played basketball at Coastal Carolina. But in any case, yeah, you're right. Nobody wanted that stuff when he first started doing it. Then they had to start locking it up because it was so valuable, which is ironic.
Which is a great market-based solution to the.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that I think ultimately the science, when the study comes in 4 or 5 years, is going to be so far advanced that the stuff that we can think of now, I don't know is going to be relevant as much anymore. Hopefully, we'll fly at that kind of rate of scientific development.
How is our food waste little project going?
The composting? I'll have to check the numbers on that to see how much has been done. So,
and you can find on their website, if you're interested, they actually do a trash audit, and they pull trash. They'll pull trucks off the road, and they'll go through, and you'll see what's in there.
Ugh.
I know, isn't that cool? I'll let you know when they have one. They're going to let me know.
You
I'm
go.
going to use a personal day for that and
You go
help on the
right
trash
ahead and
audit.
get in there. Alrighty then, should we take a vote on this?
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda is a motion to accept the Community Development Block Grant update. So, as a reminder, at the last Board of Trustees meeting, we had a public hearing on this item. Formally adopting this update would allow us to move some of the dollars that were originally set aside for specific projects that we are not likely going to use on those same specific projects into projects that we're contemplating. So those 2 projects being the facade improvement program and the installation of a new playground at Skyline Park. And I would recommend adoption of the motion.
I motion that we accept the Community Development Block Grant update as described here in the agenda and by Mr. Weckbach.
I'll second. Any discussion?
None.
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 Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a resolution of necessity for levying a tax exceeding 10 mil limitation for the police department of the township. So at the last meeting, before the meeting, we actually had a work session specific to this topic where we shared with the board some of the issues that are in the long-term forecast of the police department. As we had discussion, Mr. Unger indicated that he'd like to see us bring forward a 3 mil certification to go to the auditor to request that they provide us. As we said then at that meeting, I don't believe the auditor has a number of these that we're able to do, so certainly we can contemplate this one today. We could table it and contemplate it with others next meeting. We could do whatever action you all would like to take today, but this resolution contemplates 3 mills and is one of the first steps that we would need toward issuing a property tax levy. And with that intro, I will recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'm going to motion to table the the resolution of necessity for levying a tax exceeding 10 mil limitation for the police department of the township. And I'm trying to find the timeline that you sent out, but by the second June,
The first meeting of June, we will need to take action more likely than not on this item, in order to be able to move forward and make sure that we've got enough time to hit all of our deadlines.
and I think I expressed to you that I'd like to see the was it 499 or 495?
So there was a 499 option that was discussed,
Yeah.
465, and then there was like a 6 mil option, and
Yeah,
then
both the 465 and the 499
any number
options.
between 0 and that. So we can certainly contemplate and bring forward multiple of these.
Can we bring this to the table to vote on and then discuss, then say, instead of just a 3.0 week to go, because it's kind of
Well, I
a
think-
waste of time and resources if we want to go higher to put.
Well, I think
put it-
right now we have a motion to table.
have a motion
but
to
we do
table, it
not
needs a second.
necessarily have a
I'm
second.
not gonna second it, because I don't wanna table it, I wanna discuss it right now.
But before I do either way, I mean, we can still vote on it, and then we can say no to table it for later.
I believe.
No, say no for the, if you want to say no, and then we can then bring it up at the next meeting. No for the 3 mil
I
levy.
think this would just allow the auditor to determine what it would cost, and we can always send down another one in a couple weeks.
I think Ms. Ulrich's question is, if she votes, please correct me if I'm wrong, if she votes no on tabling it, she wants to vote on this right now, and may want to vote no on this particular amount and vote on a different amount in another meeting.
That's what, exactly, if we vote, because you want to table it, because you don't want the 3, you want to see what this 4.6 or 4.99. So I'm thinking, why are we going to send and waste our resources and our time for a 3.0 when we're not going to want that anyway? So that's where,
But my point was to have all three next to each other, so we have A, B, and C at the same time and we select.
So I guess what you're stating is
Send 3 amounts.
send potentially, right? Send 3 amounts, but potentially send them all at the same time, as opposed to sending one now and then sending another one in 2 to 3 weeks.
that's what I,
No, I was saying that in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have 3 in front of us and we'll vote on one to send.
Okay.
This will just determine exactly what it would cost, though. That's why you have the auditor certify it.
Yes.
So this, I mean, this wouldn't be what we necessarily went with. This would just go, wow, if we do 3 mills, it'll be this much. If we do the other millage, it'll be that much, and I think that would be good information to have.
what were you?
So if we go ahead and if I second your motion to table it, we can vote that down to table it.
That's right.
And go ahead.
Well, no, the motion dies for lack of a second.
A second.
I'm not gonna second it. Are you gonna second it?
I don't know if we need, I don't know why we need all 3. Well, I don't see the need for a 3, because I'm just saying right now that according to Ed Cordy's, the 3 is only gonna get us to 24. It's not even worth putting a 3 on there. So that's why are we gonna waste time and resources to do a 3?
Because we're running a $5 million surplus the last 3 years, and maybe we could use some of that surplus to offset this.
Well, I think that's why I wanted to get to a discussion. If we do a 3, we're going to have to go through and in 24, cancel how many different programs. So that's what I don't know, if I motion with him or we table it with him. So,
Well, if you motion to table it, we're still gonna vote whether or not to table it.
Yeah.
If you second his motion, all that would do would be Jeff would call for a vote, and would it get tabled, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no?
but I just really don't want to wait another week. That's my other issue, since we have to have it in by.
Also, make up your mind.
I know. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to second Dan's just so to bring it forward.
No, Dan hasn't,
I thought you motioned.
Motion that's been brought
Okay,
forward
I'm
is to
seconding,
table.
yeah.
That motion
so
to table.
I'm gonna withdraw my motion to table,
Okay,
make it simple.
and you
Okay,
motion.
then I'll motion for the resolution of necessity for levying a tax exceeding the 10 mil limitation for the police department of the township as advertised in the agenda for 3 mills, and that would just get it downtown to see what that cost. If the other trustees want to send another number along with this, I would agree with that, but I'll need a second to open that discussion.
I'm going to second. So now we can discuss it.
So
So, and I don't know if I was understanding what you just said properly, Dan, but
I would like to send this 3 mil down so they can figure it out based on the current valuation of the properties in the township and come back to us and say, hey, if this goes on the ballot, it's gonna cost, you know, $110, whatever it
You were
is.
suggesting that we then also take additional action on a different millage amount.
Well,
today.
I would be fine if these guys wanna have a different amount also. I'd just like to see what the amounts cost, and if we do that now on May 23rd, that'll give the auditor plenty of time to
Extra
get back
time.
to us.
Yep.
Well, when we talked about the 3 mil and talking to Chief Cordy, that it's only gonna get a 1 year. And so instead of doing this every year and have to go back, why are we wasting our time? And this is a twofold question, is if we go in at a 3, what are we gonna have to reduce? And is a long-term solution of maybe incorporating Colerain Township, so we don't have these levies in front of us?
So, you know, there are a lot of different options on the table, right? So anytime that we've got a deficit, you can either plug that deficit by generating more revenue, reducing expenses, some combination of the two. When it comes to levers that we can pull, I know, Dan, you mentioned $5 million in underspend, but most of that was not in the general fund. So it's not dollars that we're readily able to transition to the police department, which makes that challenging, I think.
Some of it would be, and some of it we can transfer to other departments and then have them transfer into the police department.
We are not able, well, so when we think about it
That's
that
a
way.
bigger discussion,
Yes,
and
and so that's part of the whole question about what we use, where we use it, and how we use it. There would be some staffing challenges, I think, that we would have to address. That's one option. The idea of incorporation has been floated, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the entire township. You know, when you think about cities and how they're structured, you could consider it from the perspective of we have rural areas of the community that do function more like a township, and we have areas of the community that function more like a municipality. And is that something that could be considered? If you did that, you'd be looking at something like an income tax, and an income tax would not necessarily apply to those that are, you know, not receiving income, whereas a property tax applies to anybody who owns property. So what we're talking about is a philosophical difference there of different types of taxation and what makes
Because
sense.
with Harrison, having the city of Harrison and this Harrison Township,
Yes.
Fairfield, the city of Fairfield,
Yep.
and there are borders, and those have been seemingly working rather well.
You do have those options and those examples, and if you were to go a route like that, then it would be incumbent to figure out what that geography would look like, but that's not necessarily something that's going to happen
Right.
overnight. That's not necessarily going to solve this issue
Not this
today.
issue, but maybe a longer-term issue.
The difference between property taxes and other taxing structures is that property taxes do not have any sort of inflationary growth. Different structures do. So sales taxes, income taxes, things like that, they tend to escalate or decline as the economy escalates or declines, which tends to also be what happens to your regular expenses and things like that. So those are things to consider, not necessarily something that we have to go down today, but there are some inequities in Colerain, and I'll call a spade. I've shared this with legislatures that I don't think it's fair for Colerain Township residents to be paying an income tax to the city of Cincinnati or to any other municipality just because they work there but don't live there, if it's not the inverse as well. So if a person lives in Cincinnati but works in Colerain and doesn't have to share any of that tax burden. So in a way, you've got townships that are supporting numerous municipalities across the state, and that's more of a state inequity issue that, in my mind, needs to be addressed in some way, shape, or form. So there's a lot to unpack with what I just said.
Right. That was a twofold question. So we talked about a lot of with the parks, the roads, staff, different things that we'd have to come to.
Parks, roads, staffing, and police, those development, those are areas where we have levers that are funded in some way, shape, or form by the general fund. Our general fund is anywhere from $5 to $7 million per year, depending on some of our capital projects. Capital projects are other things that we can look at too. So, but capital tends to be one time as opposed to ongoing, and so really, when you're talking ongoing, you're looking at the big picture levers, and unfortunately, I think 80% of what we do is staff.
Right.
So,
And as far as ever becoming a city, I live here because it's a township, and I appreciate the small government that we have, and if we ever become a city, you are gonna see just exponential growth in government employment, and I think we do a pretty good job with our police, fire, and roads and parks, as it is with just 3 of us sitting here, rather than a city council and all the other expenses that come along with that.
Okay, well, that said, where are we at here on,
I need somebody to second sending
I
this
think
downtown.
she did. I think Ms. Ulrich did.
Yeah, but
Just to send this downtown to see what it would cost.
I think Ms. Ulrich did. Yeah.
we were in discussion mode. Do you have anything to discuss?
I don't know. I mean,
I'd like to
my
send it
head's
down.
spinning. There's so many things.
I'd like to send it downtown just to see what it would cost.
Okay, so my position is I think it's probably going to cost more. I'm not interested in cutting police. I'm interested in adding police. I think the biggest issue of our time is going to, of the next 2 to 3 years is going to be crime. But I'm fine with sending this downtown and getting a number. And I've talked to Mr. Weckback about that $5 million a year, and I know that he and I are going to get a big shovel and do some digging and see where that came from, because I think it's our responsibility to say, look, that $5 million overage, 800,000 came from this, 200,000 came from that, rather than just give a kind of a philosophical kind of, well, most of it doesn't come from the general fund. I'd like to be real specific and clear with that, and I think that's part of my duty here. And I know that Mr. Weckback agrees with that, and we've talked about that, so that's coming as well. So with that in mind, I'll vote yes, just to send it downtown, but we're going to have another one come in June, and that may go downtown too, and you'll just have to walk us through what we do. When that time comes, we'll have to make a selection. But what I'd like to do is have whatever if we have 15 of them, I'd like to have 1 through 15 here, and we talk about what it looks like. If we have 1 and 2 here, and what it looks like, so it's very clear what our decision-making process is.
That's why I think we should have what we were looking at, a 3, a 4, 6, and a 4, 9, what's going to cost the taxpayers, instead of just sending down a 3 and having the.
Well, we're going to send that later.
Well, this is what's on the agenda,
Yeah.
is the
I know,
3.
That's why I think we should just.
Well, we can't do that because why don't we stick with what we have?
I know. We'll do it.
Because we're going to have a vote anyway. Yeah. I mean, that's why I tried to table it.
I'm sorry. I guess we'll go for a vote.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Wald?
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you, board. And I will probably bring more to the next meeting based on the way that I am interpreting that discussion.
And when's again, just let us know, keep hammering us on this, our drop dead deadline for an amount to
get something on the ballot, we will definitely need to take our final action in my mind, unless we have special meetings at the second meeting in July.
second meeting in July, okay?
How is the turnaround about getting these millage rates back?
Under the former auditor, it was relatively quick, so hopefully this is the
That
same.
was the only reason I thought to do them all at one time, is because I didn't know the time sequence.
We don't necessarily have to do it all at the same
Okay.
time, so.
Okay.
And how does this tie in with the 3-year reevaluation in the county? Is that this year?
So the evaluation is ongoing. Those numbers will not take effect until next year's tax bill.
So would this 3 mills be assessed against those new valuations or against yesterday's valuations?
So that is going to be a great question that I want to get clarity from them on, so I don't
Right.
provide the wrong information, because they may not even know what those numbers are until September or even December, and so that's going to be
Right.
after we have to make decisions. And if that's the case, maybe there are ways to consider, if it is going to be on the new number, different amounts that may.
I think the new
generate
numbers, and you're a real estate agent, I think the numbers are gonna be different than they were 3 years ago. So that, 3 mills might generate a lot more than we think it would. So thank you for supporting, finding out how much that is. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, board. The last item of new business is a motion to set a public hearing for the 2024 tax budget for June 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at 4200 Springdale Road, and I will recommend adoption of the motion.
I'll motion to set a public hearing for the 2024 tax budget, 4200 Springdale Road at, June
13th,
at 6,
7 p.m.
7, it's June 13th at 7 p.m.
Second. Any discussions?
None from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. I have no old business on the agenda, and under consent items, there are a few which I will read into the record here. There's a contract that I signed for the Pippin Road Sidewalk Project in the amount of $3,572. There's
Excuse me, what is that amount?
$3,572.
Okay, I thought you said 40.
Oh, yep.
So
No
it's
worries.
3,572.
That is correct. There is a contract I signed with Marty Kohler to provide training services to our new development staff, and that contract is not to exceed $10,000. There's a contract for First Arriving Software, which is a internal communication software in the police department, at a cost of $6,136. There was a contract with KZF for the administration of the bus stop construction project in the amount of $9,500. There was a new hire for our fleet mechanic co-op, and that is Brooklyn Mather at $12.36 per hour. A new hire in the development department, that is a planner. There are two of them, Mr. David Peters and Mr. Justin Becker, at rates of $26.45 per hour. New hire of part-time firefighters at a rate of $16.99 per hour, and those would be Michael Tucker, Aaron Williams, Thomas Vickers, and Alex Pietradia. I apologize for that. I know I said that wrong. A new hire in the fire department for seasonal fire hydrant maintenance workers at $16 per hour. That's Luke Fulmer, David Spencer, and Dylan Ayers. And a new hire, which is a police officer, Chris Thomas, at $40.38 per hour. And I would recommend adoption of the consent agenda.
I recommend that we adopt the consent agenda as read and described by Mr. Weckbach.
I'll second. Discussions?
Welcome back, Officer Thomas. That is the Officer Thomas, right?
That is correct. Mr. Thomas, who was formerly a school resource officer with Northwest High School, I believe,
Okay.
and a sergeant with us in the past.
No other comments from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Okay, you're up, fiscal officer report.
I have no fiscal report tonight.
Is there a need for an executive session?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:27?
I motion we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
No discussion?
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, meeting is now adjourned at 8:27. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.